Welcome back to Sweets, guys. So today we're doing a number cake. The cake flavor that I used was a devil's food cake, and I baked the cake the night before, and then I put it in the freezer. I wrapped it in saran wrap or plastic wrap. I wrapped it a couple of times, and then I had it I had it in the freezer overnight. Took it out the next day, and it was a little difficult to cut through, but I like working with a chilled cake, and in this case a frozen cake, just because it's not as many crumbs and it's easier to it's holding its shape a little bit better and not crumbling. So that's just my opinion. And I also was using, this was my first cake board, because I went through two cake boards, because once I finished cutting off the excess, once I finished cutting off the excess, the part where I cut off the excess, there was still chocolate cake on the cake board. And for presentation purposes, I did not want it to stay. As you can see, I didn't want the cake to stay on there, and I thought it just didn't look good, so I ended up switching. If anybody has any ideas how to only use one cake board, I am all ears. You can put it in the comment box below, because this, as you can see, this was my second cake board, and it was cleaner. As I was watching this, I was like, this doesn't look like I cut it in the middle, but then I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe it does. But as you can see, I'm using my cake leveler. I believe it's by Wilton. And I also, the buttercream that I used is a vanilla buttercream, just a regular American buttercream. And the weather wasn't hot. It was, I don't want to say it was chilly, because it was a little windy, but the weather was okay for the buttercream to hold up. So I wasn't really worried about that, because it was outside. So I made this for my boyfriend's niece. It was for her 7th birthday, and she loves chocolate cake, and the icing they didn't have a preference on. So I just did an American vanilla buttercream. Wow. Excuse me. So, I kind of like watching the dollops that I put on the cake. It just looks so good. And I don't wear gloves just because I'm always washing my hands. Like, a lot of where my cuts are, that's where I'm going to wash my hands. So that's my purpose for not wearing gloves. And you have to change them so often that I'm like, I don't, when I'm using chocolate, a lot of the times, like sometimes when I'm dipping things, I will use gloves just because it's a lot easier and it's not all over my hand. But for this one, I did not. And I put, as you can see in that bowl, I have some strawberry cake, because I was going to do some geometric hearts, and I thought that the cake scraps that I was using wasn't going to be enough. So I just wanted to have some room temperature cake, just in case I had to go with it. But I didn't even use it. The cake scraps were actually more than enough than what I thought I was going to need. So that was perfect. And this design I really liked. I really liked it. And I colored the piping bag pink. So I just put some pink in the piping bag with the toothpick by dipping it in the food gel, the food coloring, and then swiping in an upward motion, and not trying to pierce the bag, but just using a swiping motion up onto the bag, just to make sure that you could see the streaks, as you can see. And I really liked how the accents on the rosettes, it looks so beautiful. So I was pretty pleased with that. And when I had the piping bag, I had it in a cup. So I put the cup on the table, put the piping bag over the cup, used my food coloring with the toothpick and using the swiping motion. And then I put my buttercream in there. So that's how I got it to really get the pink accents around the edges. And it looked beautiful, let me tell you. And this candy melt, I actually was very impressed with how the pink came out. I don't know why I thought it was going to be maybe like a little bit of a muted pink, but this is Sweet Tooth Fairy, their pink color, and it worked excellent. Me personally, I used to use a spatula, but then I realized a spoon was so much better for getting around in the corners and making sure I got every crevice. So that's my opinion. That's why I like to use a spoon, because it really helps. I have seen people use offset spatulas, but just for me, I really like the spoon. And it's easy for me to maneuver. It's easy for me to move all around. And I got a little chocolate cake in my candy, so that's why I was dipping it out. But I really do like to use a spoon. For me, it's so much easier. And I don't actually, for this one, I didn't add any oil. I think I stated this in my cake pop video last time, that I don't like to add oil just because it takes longer to set. And when you're touching, say for example, if I were to be touching the hearts, it would be getting on my fingers, which is not something that you really want, because you'll have fingerprints in your geometric hearts. So, and this, I didn't have to add any oil to it because it was already this consistency when I took it out of the microwave. So that I was very pleased with. And after I finished putting the candy melt in the molds, I give it a couple of taps just to make sure that it's evenly coated in the mold. And then I put it in the freezer, and I think I had it in there. I know 5-10 minutes is that's a good amount to make sure that it's frozen and that it's fully set. And I normally I do 2 coats, but I know this time I didn't have to because it actually was in the mold very well. So, and this right here is all the cake scraps. So as you can see, I had more than enough cake scraps to do those 6 geometric hearts. I was gonna make more, but with my time constraints, I was like, just forget it. These 6 will go perfectly on the cake. So it kind of took me, for some reason, it took me a while to get the consistency, but it could have been because I used the pan. I was trying not to go through that many dishes, so I used the pan when I really should have used a bowl. And now that I know that I can use to do it when my cake is hot, I like that so much more. But it's a little bit difficult when you have to cut the cake scraps, and it was frozen, so I like the consistency. I wasn't worried about it, but it just took me a while to get it to the state that I really wanted it at. As you can see, like I said, I should have used a bowl because the cake was flying everywhere, so that was my fault. But I just kept, trying to get it into a ball and make sure that it actually was trying to hold its shape, and it would actually let me roll it into a ball. And when it wasn't where I wanted it to be, I just I would add a little bit more frosting, and that's how I would get it to come together a little bit better. But I did not use a lot of frosting, as you can see, and I just kept working it. And after I finished this, I went to go wash my hands because I had chocolate cake all over my hands. So, and this is still the vanilla buttercream that I was using to ice in the cake. And when I take the cake out of the oven, I don't add any icing when I am trying to get like my cake pop mixture, just because the moisture from the cake and the condensation from it being so hot, that's how it really gets that Play-Doh consistency, and you don't need any icing at all. And I finally got it No, I don't think I did get it. No, it wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I think I might have added just a little bit more frosting because this was a lot of cake. But I really don't even think I needed all that. But yeah, I did because the cake was a little, that was a little dense because it was frozen too. So, and like I said, I didn't add a second coat to my candy melt when I normally do, just because I didn't have any spots where you could see the mold or where the candy melt was too thin. I actually covered it fairly well. And I know I see this a lot where people are asking, well, I take it out of the mold and it's all cracked. It could be because you're pressing too hard. When you can hear your candy melt cracking when you're putting your cake in the mold, and if you're pressing too hard, you'll hear it cracking. So I try and, as it does look like I am doing it very hard, I actually wasn't. I was just trying to make sure that the cake was in there. And you don't need a lot of force to make sure that your cake is fully into the mold. Let me just say that. And I didn't have any cracks. And one thing that I have noticed, if you do have cracks, especially if you're doing cakesicles or anything that uses a mold, what you can do is take your spoon. Well, normally when it's right out of the freezer, take your spoon and go over that area with the back of the spoon and a little bit of candy melt and kind of smooth it out, and you won't even notice that you had any cracks. I've done it before, and yeah, I smoothed out the candy melt, and you couldn't even tell that there was a crack there. So I do recommend doing that. Like I said, do it when it's right out of the freezer. You take it out of the mold, and if you have a crack, hurry up and put it on, because the candy melt on the outside will still be a little frozen, so it helps harden the candy melt very quickly. And after I put the cake in the mold, I don't put it in the freezer. I put it in the freezer after I have put the candy melt over the top of the cake. Another thing that I was going to say is that I lost my train of thought. I know it'll come back to me, so I'll say it again once it comes back to me. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So you really don't want to fill the cavities all the way up with cake, because then you'll kind of have a bulging in the back when you're putting the candy melt on. It won't be even and it won't be flat. So you don't want to fill your cavity up with too much cake. Try and fill it a little bit less than the height of the cavity, and then the rest will be candy melt so it can be smooth. And you could use an offset spatula to smooth all of them, but like I said, I really like the way a spoon handles. Daddy's sleeping right now, so I thought I'd get my voiceover done while she was sleeping. And it makes my candy melt smooth. And as you'll see, once I take them out of the cavity, I'll show you, if you have any excess on the outsides, how to get rid of that excess. And it works. It gives you a clean look to your whatever you're using in a mold. Cakesicles, geometric hearts, anything that you're using in a mold. You just cut off you don't even have to heat up the knife at all. You can I use just a regular, not a butter knife, but just a sharp knife just to cut off the excess candy melt. And I don't heat it up. I just cut, and it looks great. Let's see. And now I'm going to put this in the freezer for about 5 minutes, I would say. And then I just pop them out. Oh, there was a crack right there. Oh, there's another one. But you don't even notice them once I do. Oh yeah, because I was doing decorations on those, it didn't even matter. And that mold I got from someone off Etsy, and I don't even remember where I got it from. And as you see, this is what I mean. You just cut off the little edges, and you don't even notice that you had it everywhere in your mold. So that's perfect. And you could reuse the excess, put it back in a bowl, or put it in a plastic bag, and you could just put it where you keep the rest of your candy melts and reuse it. Another thing that I will say, if you really want a flat bottom, what you could do is heat up a pan, not too hot, but make it warm, and you could put the backside of your geometric hearts on there if you want them really to be flat. That will help you get that flat look. So you heat up your pan, warm, not hot, like I said, and put your geometric heart on there and kind of let it sit. Not really let it sit, but kind of maneuver it around to where the chocolate can melt a little, and that'll give you a flat bottom on the back of the geometric heart. I'm yawning so much, but this design, it looked better in my head. So this one, to me, I really didn't like that much. I thought it was going to be, maybe I should have covered the whole one side with chocolate and then did this, the sanding sugar all on that one side. It probably would have looked better, but it looked good on the cake, so I wasn't too worried about it. And I've kind of been a little obsessed with this ice cream look, so that's why I did them. I really like it. It looks really cute. And a tip that I have for it is, as you're making the line on whatever you're doing, the squiggly line, just to make it look organic, follow behind it. So say I'm making a line, I'm going to take my piping back over the line I just did to kind of fill in, because if you just do it from bottom to top, it looks more organic and it looks easier. And then once you finish, you can kind of tap off the excess and jiggle it, and it makes it look like it was actually melting down. So as I'm showing you here, you'll be able to see that a little bit better. And it was a little difficult because I was like, oh yeah, I did forget about the top of the heart, but it all worked out. And see, when I just, like I said, jiggle it down, it looks like it was actually melting, which is so cute. And the sprinkles that I'm using, they're Hello Unicorn. I got these a long time ago. I think I got them at Home Goods. I know it was either Home Goods or TJ Maxx, so I won't have a link for that, but they look so cute. So, and they went with the pink theme that I was trying to go with, so I was like, let's use them. I bought those pink ones, and I don't even think I used them, because I was like, oh, these will look so cute, and I didn't even use them. Another thing that I tried to do, as you can see, I tried to write her name, because my plan was to write her name in candy melt, cover it in sanding sugar, and pick it up and put it on the cake. But because I made it so thin, it continually broke when I picked it up, so I didn't even get to use it. I also wrote the number 7. I wrote it out, but like I said, since I made it so thin, it didn't even work. So I just left them there, and I was so disappointed in myself, because that's a lot of sanding sugar right there, and I couldn't use it. So that was another idea that looked better in my head. If I worked on it just a little bit more, I would probably be able to get it to where it was able for me to move on to the cake. Doesn't that look so cute? I really like the way the ice cream, because I did that on my cake pop video. I did like the ice cream melting on my cake pops, and it looks so cute. And that was around Thanksgiving time, so I had some Thanksgiving themed sprinkles on top, and it was kind of like, I don't want to say an emerald color, but it was kind of an emerald color, more of a green turquoise color. And I as I was decorating, I kind of was putting the geometric hearts on there, so there's not a video after this of me actually putting all of them on at the same time. It was kind of a simultaneous thing because I was trying to hurry up and get done. Another thing that I used was this edible glitter spray by Wilton. I've only used this one, and it's just because I was reading on the FDA's website that you want it to have an ingredients list. If it doesn't have an ingredients list, then more than likely it is not edible. And I don't want to, that's one thing I'm terrified of, is serving something that isn't edible on a cake. So this is my go-to edible spray. If you guys know of any other ones that are FDA approved, I would be more than happy to try them out. I know another thing they said with the edible glitter, you want to make sure if it says non-toxic, more than likely it's not edible. You want to make sure it says FDA approved and it says edible. I know this one doesn't say FDA approved, but I looked at the ingredients list and this is what the cake looked like, guys. It was so beautiful. And like I said, it held up very good. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.